Many parents struggle each year, and the numbers are increasing. They struggle to send their children out of Cameroon in quest of what they call quality education that meets world standards. That's why today on Twilight, our discussion will center on if Cameroon's curriculum is preparing students for global competitiveness or simply recycling outdated local models. We're asking if education these days should serve primarily local needs or must it be aligned with international standards to stay relevant? What would aligning with world standards mean infrastructure-wise? Our topic of discussion is Cameroon's education built for world or stocked at home. And our panelists are Joyce Ngaha, who is heading to Oxford University as MasterCard Foundation Scholar. Welcome to the program, madam.
Thank you, sir.
You're heading to Oxford. From where?
From Cameroon.
Okay. Where were you studying, and what are you studying precisely?
All right. I know I said from Cameroon, but it's not like I was living here. So initially, I had a degree in laboratory or diagnostic medicine from the Africa University in Zimbabwe, still funded by the MasterCard Foundation. And after that, I had to work for 2 years in the Philippines, and then now I'm back home to get ready for university.
Now, what precisely were you doing in the Philippines?
I was a health program manager.
Oh. Okay, we should learn more from your experience during this program. We also have Yiviri Rasifatou Tombil, who is a senior program facilitator at Open Dreams. Welcome to this program, madam.
Thank you so much, sir.
I learned you are having something called the Graduate Summit at Open Dreams. What is it all about?
So the Graduate Summit is a program organized by Open Dreams where we provide mentorship for university graduates who have just had their degrees, or even those who are still undergoing their degree programs. We show them opportunities that are available for them both in the national and international communities. We guide them how to apply for these opportunities at the international level. And it is not just limited to graduate students. We also working with secondary school students, those who just had their ordinary level certificate, and those who also had their advanced level. And we are working with outstanding students. I would like to emphasize that Open Dreams has as aim to equalize access to educational opportunities for high-achieving students from low-income backgrounds. So our aim is to help these students find the opportunities that are out there, help them, walk them through their application processes, and so they can succeed as global citizens.
Just briefly, where are the opportunities, out there or in here? And what are the trends? Out there or in here?
I would say most of the opportunities are out there. Most of our scholars, they are in universities almost everywhere around the world, in all the continents, and in many Ivy League universities like Harvard, Oxford, and yeah.
Not the only one and two. Not the only one. All right, we also have with us Nkwanwui Hollyfield, who's a graduate scholar, common law and artificial intelligence. He's in the University of Cape Town in South Africa. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Talk to us about yourself. Why did you decide to go study in South Africa?
I finished my A-levels in 2018, and, you know, like every other Cameroonian graduate, I started thinking about, you know, what opportunities are available for me. I was studying at a really small private school with about 12 people in class, and obviously the only option then was to go to the University of Yaoundé 2. Because, you know, I couldn't really go to Boya or Bamenda because of the crisis. And yeah, what I found there was a bit of a shocker. I was there and, you know, I was in an amphitheater with about 3,000 people in class, you know, and it was a bit of a really drastic change for me, living from about 12 people to 3,000 people. And, you know, just the sheer, you know, overwhelming nature of the entire program made me to start thinking about what I could do, what I could actually, you know, do to get myself out of that. So I heard about Open Dreams. A family friend recommended Open Dreams to me, and I enrolled at the program, and I was fortunate to get a scholarship to study at the University of Cape Town. So I did my bachelor's there, and I did my master's there.
When it happened, you say, oh, I'm leaving this place where there are 3,000 students in one amphitheater.
Right.
Kudi Cyprain is an academic manager of Kelden International Pathway Center. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much. Delighted to be here again.
Kelden International Pathway Center. Pathways Center. What is it all about?
The Kelden International Pathway Center came as a response to the cry, the urge many students and parents want to acquire internationally recognized qualifications. Kelden International Pathway Center Kelden signed a partnership with NCUK, thus providing...
What is NCUK, sir?
NCUK, Northern Consortium of UK Universities, 67 world-class universities found in Canada, in USA, Britain, Australia, and New Zealand. With this partnership, inauguration took place at the residence of a British High Commissioner. Students now have the opportunity to begin their international studies right here in the comfort of the country. Students can do 1 or 2 years and transition very smoothly, to complete their education in one of the NCUK universities, providing over 6,000 fields of studies.
In that your short list of world-class universities, how many are they from Cameroon or from maybe West Africa?
All these world-class universities, curiously, are all out of the country. But just to indicate that NCUK has been in Africa, it's in Algeria, and it's in South Africa, it's in Nigeria. It's been in Africa for about a decade now. And it's the first time in Cameroon, first time in the Francophone Africa, first time in the SABAC region. And we are just like coming behind other African countries who have been profiting from these transnational...
You carefully avoided my question. I'm not worried about that one. I'm asking you if all those world-class universities you're talking about are only out there and known in here.
Yeah, all these world-class universities are all out there.
This is Twilight. This is CRTV News. I am Moki, Edwin Kindzeka in Yaoundé. Our topic of discussion is Cameroon's education built for world or stuck at home. Joyce Ngaha, when you hear this type of topic, what immediately comes to your mind?
I would say when I hear this, it's like the graduates produced by the Cameroon's education system ready to face opportunities outside of Cameroon, ready to be globally employed, or at the graduates from Cameroon's education system only able to stay here in Cameroon and work.
And what do you think about that?
I would say the question is multifaceted, right? And based on my own experience, to some extent, the graduates that the education system in Cameroon produces are able to work globally. I'm an example, right? I did the primary school education system. I did secondary school complete in Cameroon. I only got to move outside after graduating from the A-level. And because I had kind of the same experience like Wilson, right? It was really overwhelming to sit in a class with one lecturer and over 2,000 students. And that was even when we were separated into like 3 groups, right? Because our number or the intake that year was really so overwhelming. It was a lot. So I just tell myself that to be fair enough, the ratio of like student to teacher is already not good, right? And it doesn't actually give a chance to the student to be prepared, right? Or to learn enough to be prepared to face people internationally, where, let's say abroad in class, we have like 1 teacher and like 10 to 20 students maximum, right? So that's virtually it. I mean, based on my experience, the system prepared me. Let's say it gave me the challenges that I needed to be moved to go outside.
Where did you attend nursery, primary, secondary, high school?
In Cameroon.
Where precisely?
In Yaoundé.
Okay.
So I went to a private nursery school, private primary school, and then when I got to secondary school, my dad was like, most of the teachers, like the best, trained by the higher teacher training college, are in the government schools. So I think that's the best next step for you. So I spent 7 years of secondary education in a public school. And
you think that the foundation you had in Cameroon prepared you to face challenges worldwide and to be competitive, like a students maybe from the US, from Norway, from Canada?
No, I don't honestly think so. I don't think so. Our educational system in Cameroon is truly traditional, right? Most times the teacher just comes into the class, dispenses whatever, let's say, her lesson prepared allows her to dispense, and then she moves out, right? And then we do not often have a lot of room for questions and answer or like a one-on-one with our teachers because already we're a lot. In lower seat, we were like over 100 in the class. So sometimes the teacher will come in and spend like an hour out of her 3 hours and she's like, it's so hot here. And then people are making noise, which is understandable. It's not easy for one teacher to manage a class of like 100 students, right? And then she would just leave. So we were left to ourselves. And I feel like if I had like a better student to teacher relationship where I was followed up, I received enough career counseling, I was going to say, yeah, I was prepared for the world, but that's not what was offered to me.
Yiviri Rasifatou Tombi, does teaching match 21st century global skills? Teaching in Cameroon, does it match 21st century global skills like digital issues, literacy, critical thinking, and what do you have?
Unfortunately, as an educator, I would say teaching in Cameroon does not meet the 21st century requirements. You just talked about digital literacy, and I would say that I feel so bad when we talk about digitalization of education in Cameroon. Sometimes I feel that digitalization of education should not be a priority for Cameroonians because we do not have even the least resources for any digitalization to happen. We do not have electricity. We don't have stable electricity. And I'm talking about those of us who are in the capital city, Yaoundé. We do not have stable electricity. And there are places in Cameroon, just some few kilometers away from the capital city, Yaoundé, and we are here very close to the presidency, and they do not even have mobile network. And now we're talking about digitalization of education. Now, in Yaoundé, where we at least do have electricity, it is not stable, we are talking about internet connectivity. We don't have internet connectivity in Cameroon. Right now in Yaoundé, where I live, you need to spend a whole lot of money to have access to internet, and it is not even stable. And we are in an economy where the minimum wage is about 34,000 francs. And I think I pay my internet connectivity for like 15,000 francs. And imagine a household where a child needs access to the internet and the parents earn 50,000 francs. How much do they provide for their child to be able to have access to the internet? Now, this is Yaoundé, where we do at least have electricity. It's not stable, where we do have internet connectivity, and it is not stable. And then there are places not too far from Yaoundé that don't have electricity and don't even have mobile network. So if our own government is talking about digitalization, I have the impression that there is some sort of social injustice. I would call it technology injustice that our own government is meting on its citizens. Because what happens to that child in a village in Biami, where I come from, without internet, without electricity? Those in Yaoundé, lessons are recorded, for example, at the learning the center, are uploaded, the links are shared. Students in Yaoundé whose parents have the possibility to afford for the internet connectivity, they can have access to those lessons. What happens to those children in those villages? You see, there is that digital gap.
I think there's a program to record those programs, to record the lessons, and then take it and show to children in the hinterlands where there's no electricity. And the minimum wage in Cameroon should be about 43,000 now, madam. Anyhow, you spoke about 50,000 francs, which is not enough. So we would like to think that the government maybe, that something is being done, because those lessons are taken to the hinterlands.
Well, if the lessons are taken to the hinterlands, I'm not sure how they are properly done. I'm not sure what facilities are there. I'm just right here in Obala, and In my classes, we do not even have sockets. Okay, and so it becomes very difficult for me as a teacher when I listen to our Minister of Secondary Education tell us 1 month or 2 weeks to school resumption that we are going to have classrooms where students do not need to bring books again, because we would have computers in our classrooms and students would access their lessons through those computers. We are going to have digital classrooms, and I'm wondering, is it the Cameroon I'm living in, or is it another Cameroon that is yet to be born?
That's making a point. Nkwanwui, Wilson, Hollyfield, you want to react to what they just said before I start asking you other questions?
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting point. I understand where she's coming from, but I slightly disagree. I think that we need to make some kind of progress. I mean, the world is already shifting towards digitalization, and even if, you know, we don't have the resources, we have to try, because that's when people, you know, get to come up with the issues that they're facing in their respective sectors, and then the government actually has the opportunity to address them. I think that we stand to face much more harm if, you know, nothing is done, because somehow we're worried about inequality. And I also think from a much more regulatory point of view, because that's my background, I'm a lawyer, when you talk about policy, you know, you want to create frameworks for something to happen. You want to create enabling frameworks for decisions to be made. So what that means in practice is, even if you're not imposing on the government schools or on the kids to start using computers and digital systems in learning, you want to make sure that there's a framework in place that the schools that can actually afford, for example, private schools, they can actually engage and they can actually do that. I think it will be a disservice.
Some are using solar energy to get it in the absence of electricity.
Right. Yeah, so in my opinion, I think that we need to get ahead on this, and then, you know, people who face challenges, people who face blockages should then have the opportunity to come forth and talk about what the problems are, so that we can collectively see how we can resolve it. But to say that, you know, we won't be taking a step at, you know, digitalization, I think that will be taking us way back, and, you know, it's a difficult gap to catch up with.
I'm coming to you, but does teaching match 21st century global skills, teaching in Cameroon?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't think so, and I am also coming from the point of view with this point of view with my background as a teaching assistant from the University of Cape Town. Recently completed my master's there, and I also had the opportunity to teach there for about 2 years. So yeah, this is coming from some sort of a comparative analysis with what I experienced and with what I left back home. I think that teaching in Cameroon doesn't really you know, show the students the kind of pathways or the professions that they're likely to get into. So when you look at curriculums in other countries, if you're doing economics, your economics teacher comes with a newspaper and they're talking to you about the kind of concepts that you're learning. So you kind of see a practical application, you know, of what the field looks like. So what that leaves graduates from other universities around the globe with is, you know, vision and foresight. They know exactly what they're getting into. But if you ask someone with 5 A's at the A levels, you know, okay, you've got all these excellent grades, what do you think you're going to do at university? How is it going to help you? You want to get into A, B, or C profession, what kind of impact can you make? They don't know. It's not because they're not smart, they haven't been exposed, you know, to the information that would allow them to make those visionary choices and those decisions. So I think the curriculum can be really good, very solid. I mean, I finished with my A levels in Cameroon. I had 5 A grades, and I went to South Africa, and I still excelled. I got a distinction on my degree, and I think the Cameroonian educational system prepared me for that. But what I didn't have, you know, was, you know, that foresight and that knowledge that came from, you know, other aspects besides academia, you know, like exposing the student to things that can actually inspire them and can make them understand their profession better.
Kudi, Cyprain, I saw you've been itching to say something.
Yeah, I think I agree with Mr. Wilson that Cameroon's education is before the world. I think it's worth recalling that Cameroon's education is being mentored by UNESCO. All our internal policies, all the reforms, all the innovations, you know, they are actually being confirmed or guided or streamlined by UNESCO to ensure that it aligns with global standards. And this also gives our children to opportunities, global opportunities. Yes, I think in as much as there's much to be done, Cameroon's education is actually big for the world. The emphasis on STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the focus on English and French, communication skills, that will make the students globally competitive. At one time, we used to pride ourselves that there are two bilingual countries in the world, Cameroon and Canada. These French and English has given many Cameroonians great, huge opportunities out there. So you realize that our educational system is actually tailored to give the students, learners, global opportunities. At the same time, trying to adapt to national.
Do we have the infrastructure? You come from the private sector. And if the government hasn't got that infrastructure, from what they said here, congested classrooms, lack of laboratories, even libraries, I mean, shortage of books, digital literacy is still very far.
I agree that in some areas, we have limited resources, infrastructure, technology. But I think that on a larger scale, when we look at policy, because that is where the framework, what has been laid down, and so to be able to guide and orientate education in Cameroon, I think it is towards globalization, while addressing national needs. Yes, it's true the shortcomings are there, the challenges are there, you know, in terms of personnel, quality of teachers. But if you look at, let me add one other point, Mr. Moki. There's this area of international partnership. Our educational system in Cameroon incorporates international curriculum. You see, now it is possible. There are some schools that run the IB. There are some schools that run the Cambridge. This exposes children to international opportunities, give them international exposure, so that with that experience, with that exposure, they can be able to address local needs. At the same time, find a place out there in the world.
Do you have the infrastructure?
Yeah, infrastructure in some cases may not be adequate. It may not be adequate, and like my co-panelists have just indicated, but I think it's a pointer that those are the areas that we need to work upon to improve on the situation. But globally speaking, our education, Cameroon's education, prepares children not only for the national context, but also for global opportunities.
Joyce Ngaha, he said something about bilingualism, which is, it should be a strength in a global, it should bring a global advantage to Cameroon. And you studied in Yaoundé, so I guess your level of bilingualism is good. Did it play to your favor when you were moving out of the country to work? Also came from Cameroon, I could, navigate the two languages, and it played to your favor?
Actually, I'm very glad that this question was brought forward, because I actually wanted to make a comment when he was sharing. So first of all, it's true in Cameroon we agree that we speak English and French, right? But it's very much different when you are trying to apply for opportunities abroad. So most times, Cameroonian students are required to take the TOEFL, English Language Proficiency test, and we are required to have a certain score to be able to be assessed at the same level with students that are coming from other countries in the world. But students from Zimbabwe most times are not required to take it, because Zimbabwe is purely English speaking, though they also speak Shona, for example. Then students from besides Zimbabwe, I think sometimes Tanzania as well, right? Kenya. But then Cameroon, that claims to be bilingual, still has its students having to go through test of English, test of proficiency in English, right? A personal experience I had was when I was applying to the University of Oxford. I was asked to prove that I knew English language. In the set of questions that I was being given, when I indicated Cameroon, they were like, yeah, you do not have a waiver. Now, when I mentioned studying for 4 years, in a country where English was the first language, they were like, okay, you can move to the next step, and then we'll try to assess. And then I confirmed that I worked for 2 years in an English-speaking language. So imagine me having to like do two-factor authentication to prove that, you know, English was our
This
first
is one
language.
of the institutions here. Looking at the infrastructure, you're talking about the convention signed with NCUK. This should be Kelden. That is also assisting lots of Cameroon students who are trained to study abroad. Although some people think it's brain drain, that people are encouraging brain drain. We'll talk about that later on. Yeah, continue your experience, madam.
Yeah, so that was not just to Oxford. When I graduated in 2023, I still had to apply for jobs, right? And most times in the process, I was only applying for international organizations. That's how I found myself in the Philippines from all the offers I had. At some step, the only reason that I had waivers for English was the fact that I had studied in a country where English was recognized internationally. So we can say we are bilingual, but truly, are we bilingual from the international perspective? Or it's because, okay, we
Let
speak
me
English
just
or
get
French?
one thing understood.
Yeah.
You wrote your GCE advanced level
In Cameroon.
and it is known everywhere in the world that GCE is from the English system of education. Yet they ask you to prove that you can speak English.
Yeah, they still ask me to prove that I can speak English. That's why when he said bilingual, I was like, well, I just hope I'm the next person to intervene.
Okay, you have experience to.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
French. The fact that you're bilingual, an added advantage when you want to study outside there, or it's only for Cameroon.
I think bilingualism can help you in so many different other contexts. For example, there might be a conference or a program or whatever thing that you need to work on and they require speakers of both languages. That might be helpful. But if it's accessing educational opportunities, I think I agree with Joyce. Unfortunately, I don't think Cameroon is seen as a bilingual country. I think Cameroon is considered French-speaking. So if you are applying for educational opportunities in another country, even if you did the A-levels, oftentimes you're going to have to write an English proficiency exam to qualify for admissions.
Yes, yes. Now, Yiviri, the Cameroonian schools meet benchmarks of international accreditation. Is quality and standard there? We've seen many people go to Canada, they have jobs, which means that maybe we're not doing badly as we seem to be saying.
Well, maybe that would be not many people, but I think that most people, when they leave Cameroon, for example, doctors, some of them, they would have to take exams again in countries like Canada, in the US, before they are integrated into the system. But of course, there are also countries where, with certifications from Cameroon, people are allowed to work. For example, in the US, with your certification from Cameroon as a teacher, you're allowed to work directly in the US without any further training. So yes, we have.
How strong are our teachers when they go to teach there? Since you say we are accredited, could work in the US, for instance. When they go there to work, are they of the same level like teachers from the US and other places?
That's a good
You're a
question.
teacher too.
Yeah, of course, before a teacher is recruited from Cameroon to teach in the US, I think that they have to undergo interviews before they are recruited. And then I think we should also understand that teachers are different. We may go to the same teacher training colleges, but we don't come out as the same teachers, because there are teachers who graduate, they go to the field, they don't upskill, they don't get into continuing professional development, and they remain the way they were when they left school. But there are other teachers who seek continuing professional development opportunities, they grow, they learn as teachers, and they meet the international standards. So it would depend on individual teachers.
Mr. Kudi Cyprain has argued here that we still have very good infrastructure. We still have good training in Cameroon. He spoke about the STEMs and other aspects of education. Now, why do many parents aspire to send children abroad if local education is world-class, as you seem to be claiming?
Yeah, I think we are in a developing country. Cameroon is a developing country. And there are more challenges that are facing a development. The area of engineering, in many other domains. There are specialization of fields of studies that are not offered here in our universities. And so for students to be able to acquire these competencies and skills, to be able to create an impact, to be able to come and contribute to the development of our country, Some they have to go out there, foreign universities, to be able to acquire the skills and maybe come back and contribute to the development. I think there is a need for this continuous development in education. Is need to continue to acquire these specializations in different fields to be able to accelerate the development of our country.
If I may know, you said at the level of Kelden that you could start your studies here and continue the master's programs out there. What are the basic requirements that they ask for students who are qualified for these programs? Yeah,
so interesting. The qualifications are just the minimal that we expect for students who want to undertake a professional course, for example, engineering. You need your advanced level certificate. And that's to prove that our educational system is also recognized out there, as an entry requirement. You have your A-level. You have the opportunity. Although you may still need to go through the language proficiency test. Good. You have the opportunity to do an international foundation here in the country and transition smoothly a year after to one of the world-class universities to be able to pursue your career.
This should be one of the institutions here, the one we're watching here. They're training doctors? What is happening there?
Yeah, this is students. You can see that's the integrated science laboratory accommodating.
So this infrastructure is right here in Yaoundé, here in Cameroon?
This is right here. This is Kelden International Pathway Center, where students have the opportunity to begin their international studies right here. You do the international foundation year, and you proceed to one of the world-class universities, University of Liverpool, University of Manchester, and you complete in your degree, making the tuition, the cost, affordable to most parents. And should I add that visa is 98% guaranteed. Remember, the inauguration of the NCUK partnership took place at the residence of the British High Commissioner.
If you are joining us now, you're watching Twilight on CRTV News. Our topic of discussion is Cameroon's education builds for world or stuck at home. Our guest is Joyce Ngaha, who is heading to Oxford University as MasterCard Foundation Scholar. Nkwanwui Wilson Hollyfield is graduate scholar, common law and artificial intelligence, University of Cape Town, is in South Africa. Yiviri Rasifatou is senior program facilitator at Open Dreams, and Kudi Cyprain is academic manager at Kelden International Pathway Center, which is owned by Kelden Universities. Now, I'm asking Nkwanwui Wilson Hollyfield, is Cameroon sacrificing quality for quantity? You've said here many 3,000 children in one amphitheater, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands will move into universities this year. Many moved last year. Level of secondary school, there's this promotion that if a child fails, you should be able to explain why the child failed, without which you promote them, you push them, maybe like sheep, as what some people say. So can we say that we're sacrificing quality? By so doing, quality sacrifice for quantity?
Yes, I definitely think so. And it's interesting that you asked that question, because I wanted us to clarify the debate just a little bit before moving on. I think the problem in Cameroon is tertiary education. I think it's important for us to be specific with that, because when you talk about tertiary education, it's very research intensive. And obviously with research comes the need for a budget and infrastructure and money and, all these things. So at the tertiary level, I would agree, I would say so. Well, I don't want to take that conversation or that point away from those at the secondary level. I didn't go to a public school. I don't have a lot of experience working in a public school. Maybe she will be able to talk more about that. But yeah, I think there's a serious quality problem, especially in fields like the medical field. I don't think you can run a medical program without the right infrastructure, without the right teacher-to-student ratio. I think, it's just setting us up for disaster. And I think that's exactly the situation that we find ourselves in now.
Joyce?
Actually, I did not totally agree with him, but I understand, because he mentioned that he didn't have like the public school experience. So I would not say it's just at the level of tertiary, right? Even at the level of secondary, we have issues, right? I'm going back to infrastructure. If let's say students in like high schools abroad have access to state-of-the-art laboratory, let's say for example you're studying chemistry and you're planning to maybe go into the medical sciences, and then most of the reactions that are important for you at that level, right, are being done in the lab. Okay, I'm not saying we do not have laboratories here, but I look at the government school where I went to, and honestly, it wasn't state-of-the-art. And then most times, because we do not have enough reagents, or maybe we don't have enough tubes, or there was always one story or the other, right? So I cannot say that the practical sessions were really that helpful back then. And the funny thing is, at the end of the day, all of us, let's say like the 100 students I'm talking about, let's say at the level of lower seat, we were still being assessed at the advanced level with the same requirements, or let's say with the same testing requisites that those from the private schools had. So already there is a gap, right? Someone from the private, it's okay for them to have that experience, but at the public, there are so many gaps.
You've studied, I mean, in here, I don't know what experience you have outside. When you compare the two in Africa, I'm not talking about here in Cameroon and maybe in the US, do you think Cameroon is doing better, or they're still almost the same level like the other African countries?
Well, I've not studied in any African country except Cameroon, but I have studied in the UK, and I've had experience in the US. But if I want to talk about comparing Cameroon and the US and the UK, I'm not sure there is any comparison. Okay?
Yeah, that's why I asked between Cameroon and other African countries.
Well,
who has had that experience? Okay, you have had that experience. You have had that experience. Yeah, please share us the experience.
Start, okay. So what are we doing? Comparing Cameroon and other African
countries? Do you think we're doing better? Are we moving ahead, or it is looking?
Well, I studied in South Africa, and I don't think there is, any comparison to be made between Cameroonian and South African universities. I mean, South African universities are usually very highly ranked, even in the top 100. I went to the University of Cape Town. It's the best university on the continent. That's where it's currently ranked, and it's in the top 100 law schools in the world, and I think it goes back to the point that I raised earlier. When you talk about tertiary education, you really are talking about research output, and a serious, determinant of how much the quality and the quantity of research that you produce is the budget that is allocated to research. And so if you have...
Who allocates that budget to research?
The state.
And the state,
yeah.
Okay. So the state of South Africa allocates budget to research, to this institution. Is the budget for the students or for the institution?
Well, it's for the institutions to use to fund the students' research projects. You come up with a research project, you submit a proposal, you can apply for a grant, you can do field work with a grant, and yeah, I think the short answer to your question is I don't think there's any.
Have you benefited from that form of subvention to research in South Africa?
Yeah. Yes, I did my master's on a scholarship called the Mandela Rhodes Foundation Scholarship. As the name implies, it was a scholarship foundation that was set in honor of Nelson Mandela's legacy. And so it, supports talented young leaders from Africa to take up graduate degrees in South Africa. And they funded my master's degree. They gave me research grants. I was able to use research grants to actually travel to Europe to carry out some research, which actually...
It means it's quite a huge sum of money there.
It's quite generous, I must say. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Joyce, you wanted to add something?
I would say that just like South Africa, the education system in Zimbabwe, well, I think we're a bit biased because it's like South, right? It's quite different. I'll just share like an experience that I'm sure most students that have studied either the secondary school or tertiary education like level here in Cameroon have had. So a teacher will come and give you a test, and he would tell you that I can bet 10,000 CFA francs that none of you is going to have 10.
That's the teacher telling you that?
Telling you that in class, that I can bet 10,000 francs that none of you is going to have 10. Then you get to like Zimbabwe in a classroom, and the teacher is like, I really hope that all of you are able to get like at least 3.5 and 4 in this test, right? It's really not to like show you that you are incompetent. It's just to understand at what level you are in terms of your peers, and then see what kind of support we can give to you. But yet the teacher is like, I need to be sure, I want to see who is able to, pass my test, who is able to meet up to my demands and requirements. You see, there is no comparison.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Yes, so I agree to what Joyce is saying. I would talk mostly about secondary school education in Cameroon. And I'll talk about the teaching approach that is in place, the competency-based approach. It was trial, I think, 2012, 2014, and then it was implemented. And that is the approach that we've been using in Cameroon since 2014. But the competency-based approach is a good one because it targets developing competencies in students so they can be able to solve real-life problems when they graduate from secondary school. But the problem is, are teachers really trained how to use the competency-based approach? And then we do not have the resources, and I'm coming back to the resources problem. The competency-based approach demands that there is a one-to-one relationship between the teacher and the student. And when we have large classes, it is difficult for the teacher to take into consideration the individual needs of the different students that we have in our classes. And so the approach is good, but we just did some kind of copy and paste. We got it from somewhere. We did not even try to adapt to suit our context. We have many students in our classes. Maybe we could try to do some changes. I don't know how. It is an approach, so we must not bring it and use it the way it is used elsewhere where classes are relatively small. And then it becomes a problem. Now, even with the competency-based approach, students are still assessed the way they were assessed using the former approach, which was the skill-based. So, new approach, same teaching method, nothing has changed. And that is why we still find ourselves here, where we graduate students who have no idea about their pathways. Students do not have the possibility to encounter maybe companies, the job sector, so that by the time they leave school, they know exactly what they are going to do. It is still mostly theoretical.
Let me give you 1.5 minutes each to explain this for me to understand. If some of you argue on this set that education in Cameroon is stuck at home, then is it actually responding to the needs of us back here at home? In the 60s, it was to respond to the need of the public service. They were training people to go and work to be teachers in university. You came as a doctor, they asked you to go to university and teach, so it was responding at the time. Now, we see many of them with their degrees, riding a motorcycle, for instance. They are graduated from school. Is it training preparing Cameroonians for the needs of Cameroon?
I'll say, unfortunately, no, it isn't. And I think that is one of the reasons why we would see doctors, PhD holders striking because they want the government to employ them. Because if they had acquired the necessary skills that could allow them to create jobs for themselves, they would not be on the street striking. We have thousands of motorbike riders who are degree holders, master's holders, but they don't have anything to show for because they have just acquired the theory. We need to have a dual educational system where we acquire the theory and then we get the practice. The government needs to partner with companies, right? So that when students get the theoretical part of the training, they also get the practice and they acquire skills that are needed to respond to the problems of Cameroonians.
Yeah, Mr. Cyprain.
Yeah, I think to an extent the government has been responding. To an extent, the government has been responding to this age. You see the creation of many technical and vocational institutions, schools across the country nowadays. In those days, in those days there were very, very few of such vocational and technical colleges. Most of the schools were all doing this general education, but I think with the coming of more technical students are acquiring the skills, basic skills, electricity, civil engineering, and mechanics. Some of them are even at Form 4. They begin to do some little jobs in the quarter, you know, to be able to support themselves. I think with, like we're saying, emphasis on STEM education, on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, we may be able to come out of, you know, this idea of looking for jobs, rather creating. We're talking about entrepreneurship.
Have you gone back to look at the students you train at the level of your institute and what they have become?
Yeah, I think...
are they creating the jobs you train them to create?
I think some of the students that have actually graduated from our schools, for example, in the area of civil engineering, a department, a computer engineer, some of them have been able to establish some the workshops, and they're able to fetch some fortune for themselves. We continue to encourage such initiatives, and if we can have, like they were saying, if we can have the infrastructure so that they actually acquire the skills. Let these workshops be well equipped with state-of-the-art infrastructure, so that if a student is doing engineering, it's not only theoretical, but really something very practical that he will be able. He will not even need to go out there. Right here in Cameroon, he will be able to create, you know, employment. He'll be able to create an enterprise where we instead rather recruit many more people.
I'd love to hear that they're creating, not that we'll be able to do, as Nkwanwui Wilson Hollyfield, is the system in Cameroon training people that respond to the needs of the country?
Unfortunately, no, I don't think so.
The way you respond at times makes me wonder, why do we train them?
Well, that's a good question, but I can't answer that.
Yeah, but I'm finding out from you, is it training the people? Why do you think they're not training people?
I don't think so. But
our teachers are trained here, doctors are trained here, nurses are trained here.
Well,
we need them.
Yeah, I mean, all those fields are really important fields. But when I think about one of the most foremost fields that I think has been growing in demand in the last few years, you know, tech, I haven't seen a lot of initiative from the Cameroonian government to actually push people towards that domain. And I have to really preface this view or this opinion by saying I think Cameroonians are just really incredibly talented people, because I don't know, there's a concept called digital nomadism where, you know, people work online from different countries other than the countries where their companies are stationed. And I've been shocked and surprised to find a lot of Cameroonians who self-train themselves in technology, you know, related areas, you know, got all these licenses, the certifications, and they're working in tech jobs, but that had nothing to do with what they studied at university. So there are people that on the ground are actually catching up to the demand. They're trying to upskill, they're trying to do things for themselves, but I think it's going to be a bit too hasty to credit the Cameroonian government for that. I don't think the institutions actually, you know, are responsible for that. Yeah.
It's news time. We shall be right back. Thanks for watching Twilight. The world is a global village, and many young ones want to compete in here and compete elsewhere in the world. As people have had that experience, Joyce, Ngaha, what advice would you be giving a young person who looks onto you as a model because you've been here and there, and who also wants to compete here and compete out there successfully?
All right. I'm not going to tell you to leave the country, because all of you might not have the chance to do that. But I would say do with the resources that you have available at that moment. For example, I've noticed a trend amongst young people like myself in Cameroon. Regardless of how someone says that they are broke, they still manage to have money for internet connection, right? And then there are lots of free courses online that you can use to like level up, right, and be able to compete with a student that has the same level of education with you abroad. There are lots of free courses. You can check Udemy. Okay, Udemy, some courses are paid, but then maybe if you experience conflict in Cameroon, something like that, you can get a waiver. You have Coursera. Like, I can't even list all of them, right? But instead of spending your day maybe on Facebook or on Instagram trying to, you know, figure out what's happening in the lives of others, use that money and that internet connection to take courses. Get exposed. You might not be able to travel, but you can be exposed via your phone. So make good use of that opportunity while you are here. All right. I think that would be all for me.
Yiviri, Rasifatou, the advice.
All right. My advice to the younger ones watching us would be that although we're saying that our educational system is not providing us with the skills that we need as much as we would want, the curriculum is not bad. We get the theory, and I would encourage our younger ones to study hard, work hard, and get the good grades. With good grades, you are able to compete globally. You can have opportunities in Cameroon, in Africa, and in the world with very good grades. And it's okay, you can travel out there. There are many scholarships out there, and that is what we do at Open Dreams. We help students to get these scholarships. You can travel out there, go to the best universities, get the skills, but please do not stay back. Come back to Cameroon and be the change that our country needs. We should not always ask what the country has done for us, what the government has done for us, but we could be the change that we want to see in our country.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Well, for me, it's just going to be networking. I think visibility is such an important and an underrated skill. You know, you have to put yourself in spaces where things are happening. I think one of those, for example, can be Open Dreams. There's a lot of interesting things that go on there. You know, the conferences that happen, the gatherings that happen, the volunteer opportunities that happen. You know, you never just know who you might find, who might actually tell you about one or two interesting opportunities that might, you know, open your mind up to something that you had never thought about before. Because, yeah, I always like to say that, you know, people that succeed are not always necessarily the brightest, but it's people that have access to information. And how do you do that? How do you go about having access to that information? You need to network. You know, if you're at university, that might mean joining clubs and societies that volunteer, that do things, you know. If you have graduated, it might mean, you know, just going to networking events and just putting yourself out there to see what's out there for you. And I think if you do that, you never know what you might find. I think, you know, definitely really helpful.
Those networking events, conferences, mostly happen in towns, like Yaoundé and Douala. There are children in the hinterlands, they don't know anything about a conference. They don't even have access to internet. You said that. You don't have advice for those type of children?
Well, I think I would then, you know, lean on what my other co-panelists have said, you know. Obviously, just try to make do with what you have. Try to use the internet. The internet has a vast amount of resources right now for everyone, as opposed to, you know, like spending your day scrolling and browsing on TikTok and social media pages. You can actually put that into good use and have a very broad and open mind. You know, you might not necessarily have access to town, but you might have access to someone who could show you the way. You know, just don't be close-minded, don't be close. Speak to people that you think have experience. I usually am very open to share and help other people about my, you know, share my experience, help other people. So I often find that people get stuck in their heads about these things. You know, sometimes when you ask people for information, they're willing to help, even on LinkedIn, you know. Yeah.
Okay. Kudi, is a Kudi Cyprain?
Yeah, I think in as much as our education system strives to make a balance between global standards and national needs, I would strongly recommend professionalization education. Most of our learners should be able to move towards STEM education, should be able to move towards engineering, technical education that will be able to give them the skills that will expose them to global opportunities, global market. These skills are actually created for them everywhere.
Since you're here, let me just ask you, is Kelden offering those opportunities?
Yeah, actually, we offer the School of Engineering. We offer quite a wide range of fields in professional skills in medicine, nursing, and agriculture. So we have a wide range of fields.
And tuition to be very expensive.
No, it's really it's very moderate. You know,
I mean, globally in Cameroon, people think tuition is expensive in private schools. People have $1 million francs more than that. That's 300, 500,000.
You know, quality goes with cost. So that's what I would actually recommend, that we should go for quality education that will give us actually what we'll need to be able to excel, to be able to get to the job market and be able to bargain well.
I'm going to give you 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes each what I call take-home message. Take-home message, anything that is important you think you could share. And I'm starting with you, Mr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moki. I think we, in as much as we want to see our educational system in Cameroon develop, we appreciate the fact that our curriculum is actually recognized, is under the mentorship of UNESCO, but then we need to strive to improve on the resources, on the teacher training, so that our learners can be able to solve our local needs and be able to compete also in the global market.
Madam, take home message. I'm sure you're now ready to talk about open dreams. I've been seeing you so busy in Yaoundé these days. When you move around, you have open dreams, who settle the bills?
We settle the bills.
Oh, that's good.
Yes. In Open Dreams, everyone is a volunteer, and we're happy to help our younger ones. So this week, since this morning, we've had our graduate summit and college orientation program, which are programs run by Open Dreams. And like I said earlier, Open Dreams is a non-profit organization that has as mission to provide access to quality education to high-achieving students from low-income backgrounds. And so we are dedicated to providing educational opportunities for these students. We share with them the opportunities that are available out there. We coach them, we mentor them on how to get these opportunities. And we don't just focus on graduate students, we're also working with students who just had their ordinary level certificate. We are there to guide them to find their career pathways, because we partner with many organizations, with many companies. We link the students to mentors, and then with those who just had their advanced level, we also help them through their college applications. And yes, so our focus is not just getting them to go out of the country, but I think Open Dreams is doing exactly what we are hoping that the Cameroon government would do, because we have a kind of holistic training that we give to our students. It is not just about theory. We provide them with the much needed 21st century skills so that they can be able to respond to the problems of our society. Like we just had rounded off with our Open Dreams Summer Academy, and at the end of that Summer Academy, our students had come up with their projects, and each project was responding to a particular need in the society, whether it is there are issues related to education, health, business, and all of that. So we get these students, even as young as they are, to already start thinking about solving the problems that we have. They're responding to the Sustainable Development Goals. And so we hope that the government of Cameroon could give Open Dreams the support that we need so that we can reach out to as many Cameroonians as possible and give them the skills, provide them with the skills that we need for the economy to grow. Thank you.
I'm sure you're having moral support from the governments of Cameroon. That's what you're hoping. Joyce, Ngaha, take home.
All right, my take-home message, as someone who has had the opportunity to study at the tertiary level in Cameroon, in another African country, and in the West, I'll start with the government of Cameroon. We can do better, right? We are not apportioning the entire blame about what's happening, but then we believe that for things like having to change the curriculum at, let's say, the training, like the teacher training colleges, having to like train the teachers, review what's like, who is doing what, who's not doing what at the level of the education system in Cameroon, that's your responsibility. We believe that you have the resources to be able to do that at the grand scale and make sure that like students in the 10 regions of Cameroon have access to the same type of opportunities and they're able to compete globally. Now to the teachers, right? Teachers can get to tell us, like, can get to chart the pathway for a student, right? I started hating economics because of my teacher. I just knew, based on the experience I had with my economics teacher, that I would not do arts, all right? And that's how, I'm not saying I totally ventured in science because of that, but yeah, that's how like influential teachers are in our lives. So to teachers here in Cameroon, we look a lot up to you. So there's so much to do. Like Madam Yiviri said, right, if upskilling is what it takes, please do the upskilling. I'm not saying your salaries are the best, and I'm not saying that I don't understand why you have to take vacancies, but while you're in the government schools, try to focus and concentrate on those people while you are there, right? Thank you, because I hope you guys will do that. And then to the students, we cannot blame the government, we cannot blame the teachers alone. We have our part to do. Like myself initially said, and then like Wilson agreed, if you want to compete globally and you're still spending 20 hours of your day on TikTok, on Facebook, and on Instagram, I don't think there is any global competition you're going to get into besides the best at scrolling, right? And we will not even know because, well, it's those that are doing data sciences that know about that. So really, you cannot say you want to go abroad and do all those things when you are not trying to level up, right? Yeah, the government might not be giving you all that you need now, but you have internet. If you have internet, there's so much you can do. And like he said, network, reach out to people. You might not know who is really willing to help you, move into those spaces, go and network. And initially, Sir said that he was only talking about Yaoundé and Douala. So this week, we had a symposium for students in Bafoussam. And we had students from Babaju, from Bamungum, from Banjul attending the symposium. I was in Bafoussam for 2 days this week, just to share my experience and all of that. So it's left to you, the student, to figure out where that is happening and to, let's say, the government and platforms like this to make sure that this information is shared nationwide.
Joyce,
and students can attend that.
The passion you have talking about these issues, I'm sure young ones like you're watching, also listening and going to speak like you tomorrow. Yeah. Take one message, please. Take 1 minute.
All right, yeah, sure. I'm going to try to do that. Well, mine will mostly be for the students. I think, a lot of what we've spoken about might seem very discouraging, but I want you guys to know that, you can leverage those challenges to actually counter strengths. When I think about my university application journey, there are a lot of essays where you needed to talk about, difficult moments that you had to go through. Often at times, people come up with community projects that are then funded by big grassroots organizations, by countries, by different, sort of entities. And it's that experience, that difficult experience that actually led you to think about that actually led you to conceptualize that problem. So my take-home message for the students will be to leverage the difficulties that they're currently facing into opportunities. I think there is a vast breadth of that, and I think my co-panelist here would also attest to that. I think that's a core component of what I think it takes to be a successful person, both at home and abroad. And lastly, I would also like to beckon on the government to work with people that have had the experience, people that are coming back to the country and that are wanting to actually help and contribute. To support us, to support people like Open Dreams, to support scholars that are coming back and have taken a keen interest in the country. It will be nice if we got a platform and some help to actually spread our knowledge and to help our country grow.
Never mind, we're doing it here now. CRTV is bringing you to talk about these issues, and lots of Cameroonians are listening. We end the program Twilight on CRTV News. Our topic was Cameroon's education, built for world or stuck at home. We had a guest, Joyce Ngaha, who is heading to Oxford University as Mastercard Foundation Scholar. Nkwanwui Wilson Hollyfield, graduate scholar, common law and AI, University of Cape Town in South Africa. Yiviri Rasifatou Tombir, who is a senior program facilitator at Open Dreams. And Kudi Cyprain, academic manager, Kelden International Pathway Center, found at Kelden University here in Yaoundé. I am Moki, Edwin Kindzeka in Yaoundé. Thank you for watching.